This is the solution video for case problem 1 in Appendix A. And Appendix A is about working with text using text functions and using special formats. So obviously you got to download the Gulf workbook, and then the first instruction is to fill in the author, date, and name. The second instruction is to create a table out of the members worksheet, the data in it. So I'll go to Insert, Table. It selects all of our data, has headers, so you're good with that. And then it wants us to name that table. So in the design ribbon of table tools, we'll just type in a name of golf and hit enter. The next instruction, I believe it's 4, we want to apply a special format to these telephone numbers. So under the home ribbon, where you format these numbers, I'll hit that arrow, that little indicator to open up this dialog box, and there is a special format specifically for zip codes, phone numbers, and social security numbers. In this case, we're going to choose phone number, and then we want to make sure we have the right locale, because different places will format their phone numbers differently. So English United States is good for us. We'll hit OK. Now that means we don't have enough room in the column, so I'll double click to autofit, and our phone numbers are now formatted appropriately. So moving on to instruction 5, we want to split this data into 2 columns, so a first name and a last name. So the first thing I'm going to do is select this column, right click. I will insert a column to the left. I need a blank column for the new information to go into. Now this column, I'll go ahead and label it, is going to end up containing the last name. And we'll label this column the first name. Like that. I'll go ahead and put a space in last name. Okay, so how to split data that's in a column like this. First, you got to hope that there's something that we can split on that Excel will recognize. And in this case, it looks like there's a space between first and last names, and I can split on that space. If somebody's first name had a space in it, like Laval or something, LA space VALE, then we would be in trouble. But in this case, we can do it. We can go to our data ribbon, and here's text to columns. So I click on that. It's a 3-step wizard. The first step is, are we fixed width or delimited? Is there some character that separates our data? That's what delimited means. And we're like, yeah, there is a character. It's the space character. So I can get rid of the tab, go to space, and now I will hit, it puts a line here because we said space. It goes, all right, here's how I'm going to split them up. Then you can scroll through the data and make sure it works appropriately. Now we hit next. It's asking, do we want to format these columns in a, like as a date or specifically text or anything else, or even do not import. You could say don't import the first name, but we want them both, so we'll just hit finish. It's freaking out saying, well, I'm going to overwrite the data in column B, and we're like, well, that's okay. It's going to put the first name in B and the last name in C. So we'll hit OK, and now we've separated that into 2 columns. Moving on to instruction 6, it wants us to take this members since column and only display the year. So it's not going to change the date that's in here, but we only want to see the year. I don't care about the particular month and day. So again, under home, I always hit this dialog box button, and we are going to do a custom format. I wonder, it actually may be one here in the date. No, it's always showing the full date and month. So under custom, you can specify with these characters D, M's, and Y's, and the combination that you put together will affect how the data is displayed. So in this case, if we just put in 4 Y's, up here in the sample, you can see the result. It's just only going to show the year. If I put a dash in front of that and then 2 M's, it would show the month and the year. If I put in a 3rd M, it will spell out the month and the year. So if I put in a 4th M, it'll completely spell it out, as in November. So you can play around with the D's and the M's and the Y's and do a custom format on your dates. So in this case, we only wanted the year, so going back to the 4 Y's, we hit OK. And it shows us our year. But realize that even though I'm only seeing 2003, the contents of that cell is still 11/15/2003. So it's kind of like decimals in that the numbers to the right of a decimal point don't change, right? It's what's in the cell doesn't change based on how many decimals you choose to display. So same thing here. I'm displaying the year, but it doesn't change the content of the cell. Moving on to instruction 7, we now want to do that same split exercise with the city-state zip. So this time I'm going to have to insert 2 columns because we're going to one for the city, one for the state, one for the zip. Right-click, insert table column to the left. And so this one I will label as state, and this one will be the zip. Same exercise as before, where I'm going to select this, go to the data ribbon and text to columns, but I am going to have to do this 2 times because I don't have the same delimiter. I don't have a NM, New Mexico, comma. If I did have a comma there, then I could use that same delimiter. So we'll say delimited the first time because we do have a comma between city and state. And it's not a space because Rio Rancho would be 2, and I don't want that, so it is a comma. Get rid of the space. So it's going to split right there, and we're okay with that, so we'll hit next. We're not going to reformat the data, so we'll just hit finish. And it says there's already data here. Do you want to replace it? Yep. Hit OK. So our city ends up there. Now our state zip are in this column. So we'll do this exercise one more time. I'll select that column, text to columns on the data ribbon. Now you would think we could use delimited and we would do it based on the space, but here's what happens. There's actually a space in front of New Mexico, and so it gives us a 3rd column. And there's solutions to that. There's actually trim functions that we could apply to this state. But what the book suggests in instruction 17 is rather than saying delimited, let's go ahead and call it fixed width. So by doing that, we can come over here and define our width. You literally can click on this ruler bar, and when you do, it puts in arrows. So if I felt like splitting up my zip code, I could. Of course, it doesn't make any sense. And then if you double click, you can remove those. So do I want it to split right here, right after the M, or should I put one in there and double click? It doesn't matter. It all depends on where you want your spaces to reside. But either way, we are going to split right there. We're going to hit next. I'm not going to format the columns any differently. I'll hit finish, and then it says there's already data here. Do you want to replace it? Yep. And so now we have our state and our zip. Now notice when it does do that split, it did clean up the data, so I was worried it would leave the spaces behind. But if I click up here, my cursor goes straight to the M, and if I click over here and hit backspace, there's nothing being deleted. So the spaces were trimmed off our data, and same thing here. I don't see anything in front of my 8, and when I click there, there's no spaces after the 4. So that's all cleaned up. Moving on to instruction 8, what we want are the 3 characters after the letter, and that's going to be the locker number. So we're going to put in a title here called L number, and they want us to use the mid string function. It automatically expanded the table, but it made them all dark blue. I'm not going to worry about it. So let's get into the mid function. I'm going to zoom in a little bit and scoot over. So here we go. I want the 3 characters after the letter A. So I'm going to type equal and mid parentheses so that I can see what it wants. It says, well, what text are we looking at? All right, well, the text is the @locker function, comma. What's our start number? Where will I start returning characters? And so we want start position 2. We want the 2nd character. So there's a 2. And then it's asking, well, then how many characters do I want to return? And the answer is 3. So we're going to start at position 2, which is the 3 in this particular case, and then go for 3 characters. So it's 3, 5, 0. That's 3 characters. And basically that's it. So we close up the mid function and hit enter. And because it's a table, it automatically fills in, and so we get the 3 digits after the character, the letter. Now we're going to do a similar exercise in instruction 9 in that this 5125, that actually represents the row number of the locker apparently. So in column J, we're going to put in a new heading, L row, because it's a table. It'll automatically bring that in. I wonder what I did this time to get all blue, and this time I got it banded. So I want to get the 5 to pop in over here. So they ask us to use the right function. So the right function is easy to use. It only wants 2 things. What is the text? So again, we will grab that text. And then it goes, how many characters from the right side do you want me to select? From the right side. That's what right's all about. So I just want that 1 character off the right side of this string. So if I put a 1 and a parenthesis, then it will grab just the 5. And again, because we're a table, it auto-filled that formula down. And there we go. We'll double check with our solution picture. Looks very similar. We got the 3, the first and last name, and the telephone. I noticed the first and last name are in proper case. I don't think there was instruction to ask us to do that. I don't see an instruction for making these proper case, but just as a learning exercise, let me talk about that. So I went to the formulas, and under text there's lower, which would make everything lowercase, and way down here there's an upper, which make everything uppercase, which it already is, so that would be silly. And then there's proper, which basically capitalizes the first letter of each string. So here's a little trick I would do. I would just type equal proper, and it's really easy to use. It goes, well, what text do you want me to make proper case? I would select that, and then it takes capital A and it lowers everything else. I could drag this down till I get Tracy, right? And so now I will control copy, and I will move it up here, but I want to paste special. I only want the values to come up here. So I could choose the values, and now I have that in proper case. Obviously I could do the same thing for this column, but now because I only put in the values, I can take these formulas and clear them out, and I have that in proper case. So anyway, not part of the assignment, but I thought I'd demonstrate that, and we're all done with this solution video.